Hello, fellow learners. Welcome to Listen, Learn, and Grow. I'm Kim, to be your instructor today. Let's start off. You should have downloaded the Geek Speak budget template, and you should be on your budget tab. There's a few things we're going to learn today. We're going to learn how to resize the cells. There's several ways you can do that. You can make your little plus sign and simply drag it over, and click and hold and drag it back. And if you want to, you can just make your little plus sign and double click, and it'll automatically fit to the content in the cell. Another way you can do it to make sure that it's equal across all ranges is to highlight the cells, go to Format, and you can either format the row height or the column width. Since you've highlighted columns, we're going to format the column width, and it's saying that it's 8.43. Let's change that to 14 and see what happens. Now you have opened up all the cells to a width of 14. Makes it a little bit easier to read. Now let's add a little bit more to it, and we're going to highlight the top row, and we're going to go to Cell Styles, and we have several different cell styles that can be used that will make it stand out and more legible to your reader. Let's click on the heading 1 and then click out of the area, and you have added a line, made it blue, bolder, bigger, and it automatically formats anything in that cell across the entire workbook. Now we're going to talk about some formulas. If you notice here, we have a monthly budget with your bills, household bills, and it spans across the months of the year. We're going to total all of the bills for the month in column B7. Simply click on B7, go to your Formula tab, and you'll see Auto Sum here. You can click there and it will auto sum. It gives you an example of what you would be doing, and it will highlight the cells that want to be summed and put the formula there to make sure that you are getting the correct cells. Click Enter, and it totals the monthly bills for January. Okay, that was easy. What if you wanted to do it for 12 months? That's easy too. Highlight cell B7. Down at the bottom right corner, you'll notice a square in that cell. Put your pointer over it until it becomes a plus sign. Click and drag across the entire year and let go, and the formula is transferred. Now you can see what you spend every month. Okay, so now we've got our totals. Now we want to know what the difference is between our income and our total expenses. So let's click on B9, and this formula is a little bit different, but not much. We're going to hit equals, which automatically puts you in formula state, and you want to click on B8 minus the minus sign, B7, and hit Enter. And now that cell is calculating the difference between your income and your expenses. And again, simply go to the bottom right corner, make a plus sign, click, and drag the formula across all of the months, and the formula is copied. Now you'll notice that in each cell, the formula moves across the columns and rows. In the original formula, it was B8 minus B7. In the next column, it's C8 minus C7, and so forth. Now, let's scroll over to the average column. We want to find out what our average monthly bills are. In this case, I'm going to zoom smaller so that I can see the whole chart. And I'm going to click on the arrow below AutoSum and select Average. And you notice that it highlights the cells that I want to average, and then it puts the formula B2 through M2. And I hit Enter, and then I will highlight cell N2, put the plus sign on the bottom corner, and drag the formula down. But I don't want to drag it all the way to the bottom, because I only want to drag it to my expenses. And there it averaged out what my expenses are for each category. Average expenses. Now, it's all fine and dandy that you can see what your averages are, your totals, your income, and your difference. But what if we want to make it a little bit more appealing to the eye? Let's highlight the totals row, go back to the home page, go to cell styles, and we're going to choose a style that makes it stand out. And total is a good one. And if you notice, it breaks it out visually so that you can see where your totals are. And you could do the same thing on the income or difference using a different format so that you could see it more clearly. Now let's talk about some conditional formatting. Say I want to know when my food bill exceeds $200. Well, let's highlight those cells, then click on Conditional Formatting, and we're going to go to Highlight Cell Rules, and we want to do a greater than formula because we want to know when it's over $200. Click Greater Than, and it automatically puts in a figure for you, but you want to change that figure to $200, and it automatically fills light red fill with dark red text, which is an okay format for if you like that one. Click OK, click off of the area, and it highlights each time your food bill goes over $200. Well, that's fine and dandy. Let's see about, okay, so you want to watch your food bill over $200, but what if you want to know when you're doing good? How about if we highlight the electric bill and do conditional formatting. We're going to highlight the cell rule, but we want to do less than, and we want to actually reference a cell. We want to do less than what the average is, and we want to fill it with green. We're going to make it green with dark green text, or we could actually custom format, and it'll pull up another page, go to the Fill tab, and you can make it bright green, and click OK. Click OK again, and then click off of the cell. Well, there are several months, as you can see, where you're below your average. The good part about using a cell reference in a conditional formatting situation is that if any of the numbers during the month change, the average automatically changes, which changes your conditional formatting. Let me give you an example. Let's go to January's electric bill and make it $100. Now, if you notice, the average changed, and so did your conditional formatting. Now, if we go into February and make that $300, once again, your average changed, and so did your conditional formatting. Okay, so we've learned a little bit about conditional formatting and making it more visually appealing. What if we wanted to put a chart in here? Let's add a graph or a chart. Well, we're going to simply highlight January through December and all of the bills. And then we're going to go to the Insert tab, and we're going to look at the recommended charts. Now, in the chart section, you can choose which chart you want, and you can put it into a pivot chart. We'll talk about pivot charts later and pivot tables. For this lesson, we're just going to do recommended charts. And the first recommended chart that it gives you is an okay one, but it might not be the style you want. You might want to look at the one that's got more color in it. You may want to do the one where they're just side by side. And it may be one where you want to have a stack. I'm going to pick the stack chart and click OK. And it will automatically put a chart for your information. And of course you see that it has the months at the bottom, and it has your chart title, which is not titled, and the average costs every month. It adds it and stacks it all together. Now, if we want to go to chart elements, we can take away the chart title by clicking on it, and we can take away the legend, or we can leave, or we put data labels saying, and it will put the numbers of what each cost is. We can put a data table at the bottom. We can put access titles. Anything you want to do, you just check and uncheck there. I'm going to leave it just like that for this lesson. There's no need to get into more details. But as you can see, it gives you a more visual on where your money is going for that monthly budget. And I think that's a good lesson for our budget today. Now we're going to click onto the Salary tab. And this is just information that I put in a table just so you can have something. You didn't have to fill in the numbers. But we're going to go over several formulas in this project. Okay, this is a simple salary calculation project that we're going to do. If you notice at the top, we have employee salary, hours worked, overtime, taxes, gross pay, net pay. You would think that that's all you would need, but for the purpose of formulas, we're going to need a little bit more. So I'm going to show you how to insert cells or insert columns. Let's see, let's highlight column E and click on the arrow below insert and insert cells. Now, if you notice, this has no information in the cell, so that is your new cell. So we're going to title this one regular hours. Now, I'm going to go across all of the columns and resize them, highlight them, click Format, column widths. I'm going to make them 14. See if that's big enough. That's better. We can actually read all of the titles now. So, in order to calculate hours paid, we need to know what the overtime hours are and the regular hours. Okay. Now, this is where we're going to get into if statements. For your overtime hours, you're going to type equals if and an open bracket. Now, if you see that it shows that it wants a logical test and then a value if it's true and a value if it's false. So I want a logical test saying if C2, which is hours worked by Kim, is greater than 40, because anything over 40 hours is overtime. I'm going to put a comma, and that moves me to my next field in the formula. If it's true, then I want to take cell C2, the hours worked by Kim, minus 40. And then comma, it puts me in my next field, and if the value is false, what do I want to return into this cell? I want to return a 0. And then close bracket. Hit enter. And you notice that it has taken the 40 hours out of the normal working hours and moved them to 5 hours of overtime. Now I make my plus sign and drag the formula down, and it returns 0 for anyone who did not work over 40 hours, and it returns any overtime hours for the ones that worked overtime. For regular hours, I need to calculate another if statement. So, equals if, open bracket, the logical test would be if the hours worked are less than 40. Okay, if it is true, comma, if it's true, I want to return the value of the hours comma, to go to my next statement. If it's false, then I want to return the value of the hours worked minus 40. Close bracket. Oh, I made a mistake. Do you see that? Let's go back and fix it. I don't want a minus 40. I just want $40. Okay, in that case I have returned a total of 40 and your overtime hours of 5 to total 45 working hours. Now let's drag this down and see if it calculated it correctly. Now, if you notice, it's taking 40 hours plus 0 is 40 hours. 38 plus 0 is 38. So it has correctly calculated all of the regular hours and overtime hours. Okay. Now you think that would be the simple way of doing it. But let's figure out if we can actually calculate some taxes. Okay, for taxes, it would be easy to say that everybody's taxes are 25% or 0.25. Okay, so if I want to know what my taxes are, before I can calculate taxes, I have to know what my regular pay is for the week and my overtime pay for the week. So we're going to highlight the F column, and this time instead of going to the Insert tab up here, we're just going to simply right click and we're going to click Insert, and it will insert a column for you. And we're going to do that again. So we have two columns. This first column is going to be called regular pay, and the next column should be overtime pay. Now to calculate the regular pay, we're simply going to put a formula in that says equals the regular hours, which is E2, and then times, which is an asterisk in Excel, the salary, which is in B2. And then we're going to click Enter. Then we will drag that formula down, and it calculates everybody's regular pay. Now, for the overtime pay, since we know overtime is at 1.5 times your base salary, we're going to put in a formula that says equals, and then we're going to have a closed bracket, 1.5, the asterisk, and then B2, and then a closed bracket, and then another asterisk, and we're going to multiply it times the overtime hours, which are in D2, and hit Enter. Now, what we're doing there is, in order for Excel to calculate, you have to understand how it's going to perform its calculation process. It's going to do it just like you would in any kind of algebra or math course. Anything in the parentheses it will do first. Then it will do multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and it will do it sequentially from the left to the right. So it first calculates 1.5 times the salary, and then it multiplies that calculation times the salary range, or the hours paid, I'm sorry. Now, go to your cell and make your plus sign and drag that formula down. And you'll notice that there are some zeros because some people did not get overtime. That is normal. Okay, now we want to calculate the taxes. To do taxes, it would be easy if everybody just had 0.25%, and then you could simply add your regular pay and your overtime pay, multiply it times your taxes, and it would be your gross pay. But not everybody has the same tax amount. So we're going to highlight cell H, insert a column, and we're going to call this column tax rate. Now I'm going to simply put in different tax rates for each person. And then I'm going to show you how to change it to a percentage. Okay. Now let's highlight these and change it to a percentage. Wow, that's incredible. It's a little bit too high. The reason they became so high is because I didn't use a decimal number for the equivalent of a percentage. So in order to do it now, it's 24.44%. Now you have to actually re-enter them because it calculated that the decimal point was saying that it was 2,500% instead of 25%. It multiplied it by 100. So now that you know that it's whole numbers, now it's in a percentage form. Let me highlight I2, and because that's a decimal of 0.25, if I click on percent, it'll go, oh, I clicked on dollar. If I click on percent, it'll go to 25%. We're going to change that one back to just a general number. Okay, so now we have our tax rates for each individual person. In the taxes column, we want to calculate what the taxes are going to be for this pay rate. You highlight cell I2, and to calculate the taxes, we will simply put the equal sign, and we are going to add the regular pay, the overtime pay, but we needed to do that addition first, so we do parentheses, regular pay, which is F2, plus overtime pay, which is G2, close bracket, and then an asterisk for times, then H2 for the rate, and hit enter. So for the tax rate for this week will be $255, and we are going to highlight that cell and drag it down, drag the formula down, and there's everybody's taxes for the week. Okay, now you notice it's kind of hard to read what the dollar amount is, so let's make this column money, or we can actually just decrease the decimals. If we decrease the decimals down to 2, it will show up as dollar signs, or you could simply hit the dollar amount and it will bring a dollar sign in front of what the tax pay, or the taxes are going to be taken out of it. Now, to take it out of, to calculate the gross pay and take your taxes out of everything that is going to be in your paycheck, you want your net pay. That will take your taxes out. Your gross pay is simply going to be your regular pay plus your overtime pay. So it will be a formula of equals F2 plus G2. And then you highlight J2 and drag the formula down. And you can hit the dollar sign and it will automatically put the decimals in for you for your gross pay. And then your net pay is going to be, which is going to equal your gross pay, which is J1, minus your taxes, which is I2. Sorry, it's J2 minus I2. And you hit enter. And since they were both in dollar format, it automatically puts the dollar amount there. And drag the formula down. And that is how you would calculate overtime and use the if statement to get there. That's how you put percentages in. That's how you make dollar columns. And you can increase and decrease decimals. And even if you decrease the decimal amount still appears for the formula calculation. Just so you're aware that it may only show up as 24.44% here. And if you decrease the decimal and look in your formula bar, it's still showing the 24.44%, even though it's only displaying 24% here. And you can highlight the entire column and decrease your decimals. It's not going to let me do that. You undo the decreased decimal in the first place. Now I can highlight the column and decrease the decimal so it only shows as a percentage here, but if you look in the formula bar for any one of them, it shows the numbers after the decimal so that the calculation is correct. But it's more visually appealing to see just the 24% compared to 24.33. And I think that's a good lesson for today. Well, thank you for joining me. We've learned a lot, and this will be here for your review. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit more of the formulas and functions in Excel.